Good morning. Uh, how are you all doing this morning? Uh, Yesterday was supposed to be Bible study as well. Kind of feeling a little bit discouraged that I never made the time to do it. I have plenty of excuses, but I'm not sure that it's worth sharing the excuses, other than I was up since 4 yesterday, and until I actually had time to do Bible study, I wanted to rest, and I slept for like 2 hours yesterday in the middle of the day, and was awoken by a call where I had to go and do other things, and then that call turned into what I basically did until night. So they're just excuses. They don't excuse me of it at all. We should have done Bible study last night, but we didn't. Should have did it yesterday morning, should have did it lunchtime, should have did it last night, but I didn't make the time for it, and I apologize if any one of you tune in each day or check the channel each day for the Bible study, because I let you down. But this morning we're going to go to the book of Job. I don't know if you know the story of Job. It's a kind of long story, actually. Out of all the books of the Bible, it's one of the longer ones. It's 40 some pages, 45 pages. There's 66 books in the Bible. Psalms, I think, is the largest by number. But right before the book of Psalms is the book of Job. There's been a lot of debates, a lot of conversations about the book of Job in my life, whether or not it's possible to be a true story. It kind of seems like not a proverb. What's the like the stories that Jesus tells? They're called parable. So there's different parables in the Bible in the New Testament, and lots of people think that this is an Old Testament parable. Most people that have done their research on the book of Job seem to think that it is pre-flood. It's hard to say. But it says in the first chapter, in the first verse, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. And that man was blameless, upright, and fearing God, turning away from evil. So, we're going to just stop for a moment and talk about that verse. The land of Uz isn't really a land that is talked about much in the Bible. It says here that it's talked about in Jeremiah 25. Hey, Thriving Expat, like number 1. Yeah, you are number 1 for the like, and you're number 1 for the comments. Thank you, Thriving Expat. How did the remainder of your night go? So we go to Jeremiah 25, 20. I watched you for quite some time, but then eventually my wife said, "That's still loud. Can you just turn it off?" And spend time with me, so that's what I did. Because happy wife, happy life. As you were saying, your wife is your queen. I don't know if I'd call my wife my queen, but she's definitely what most of my. Great, we went home at almost 2 a.m. Wow, you're up pretty early for being out till 2. But yeah, my wife is definitely the center of my attention most of the time. But yeah, it says Jeremiah 25:20 says, and all of the foreign people, all the kings of the land of Uz, all the kings of the land of the Philistines, even Ashkelon, Gaza, Urkan, and the remnant of Ashdod. So, wife is still sleeping. Yeah, my wife she just made it to class. She goes to, this is one of the schools that we started. I told you last night in the live, we did one in Barakai. We're not at Barakai, we're in Aklan, which is the state that Barakai resides in, but we're on the mainland in Panay. Then we built one school just over here in the Ati village. That's, if you ever heard of Ati-Atihan, that's the Ati have a tribe here in Sitio Carla, and they were interested in having their own school, so we built them a school up there. Once upon a time, that was, I don't know, back in 2015, I think, is whenever class started there. But yeah, I was just a youngin' back then. As you can help them. But yeah, so I was saying, this is Great Commission Bible Institute. I went to Great Commission Bible Institute, Florida. This one is Philippines, obviously. But it's just a one-year Bible college. This is the only textbook that we use. It's the NASB version. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it does kind of matter because that's what all the notes are written in from the professor that built the program. But we just go from the first page to the last page, just all the way through the Bible. We do it first in just 1 week, or less than 1 week if it's possible. We'll just read the entire book cover to cover, and then after that we'll come back to the campus here, because we typically do that off campus because it's kind of a place you want to go somewhere where it's comfortable and quiet, and there's road things here, and dogs and chickens and turkeys and pigs and goats, and everything runs around this campus. But it's here at Malai Gospel Baptist Church. But at any rate, after the 1 week of reading the entire Bible, then we start going in verse by verse. We have notes from the original professor of Great Commission Bible Institute, Pastor Randall Smith, or Dr. Randall Smith. He's actually called a doctor. But yeah, we just go in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless without void, and darkness over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving through the surface of the waters. And then he'll break it down as what it was in the original text in Hebrew, and give you meanings to the words in Hebrew, and just, he works through the whole Bible on video, trying to give you a breakdown of what the original text was trying to portray. And this is the Bible that he chooses to use, the NASB. This one's great because it has large area for notes in the side. But yeah, so that's what we do here at Great Commission Bible Institute. My wife is doing her year. She decided she wanted to enroll after she finished with college. She's a customs broker. She went to Manila to take the board exam. Last year in December, she passed the board exam. I went there and proposed, and met her family that she has there in Manila, and then in Isabela in northern Luzon, and then we came back here and started preparing for the wedding. And we got married in February. That's our anniversary is coming up on the 8th. But yeah, so we haven't even been married a year yet. We have our kid. She's in there swinging in her electric swing we got her, and yeah. So yeah, we'll get into Job a little bit further here. We just went to the first verse. The land of Uz. I read in Jeremiah about kings of Uz, so it does talk about the land of Uz in other portions of the Bible, but it's kind of this is the first time it shows up, and it's just interesting how it's not really any place you can find on a map modern day. But it said, the man was blameless, upright, fearing God, and turning away from evil. That's, I think 2 days ago, our verse of the day was Proverbs 22:18. That says, Proverbs 22:18 says, I thought it was 22:18. No. Well, can't seem to find it, which is alright. The verse I'm trying to find is one that says that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Or no, that wasn't even it either. But anyhow, fearing God is the most important part. The verse was, humility and fear of the Lord will give a man honor and something else. I'm sorry. I should really remember from a couple of days ago these verses. But yeah, so humility is important, but not only humility amongst your fellow man, but fearing the Lord is kind of where Christianity comes into practice, and where you'll find that God will bless you if you fear Him, and especially turning away from evil. And that's what it goes on to say, that Job had a lot of possessions. It says here 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 oxen, 500 donkeys, and very many servants. Well, I don't know that I've ever, it said 7 sons and 3 daughters, that I've ever seen 7,000 of any animal. I've worked on farms that had 5,000 throughout the whole entire farm, but never in just one area, 5,000 cows. I feel like to see 7,000 sheep would be like almost as far as the eye could see. It'd be, and then to add his camels and yoke of oxen. It doesn't say about how much land that he had, but you can imagine that he was probably in charge of a couple hundred hectares if he had so many sheep that needed to graze, and you'd have to rotate them, and because sheep would just decimate an area of grass, especially like just a herd of 100 sheep probably decimated an acre. You'd have to switch them back and forth from one half of an acre to another, just 100 sheep. But he had 7,000. Have to go and deliver the door to school. Take care. Thank you, Thriving Expat. Yeah, we'll be praying about your school, that funding will come in. Maybe I can come and give you a hand sometime. My wife has family in that area of Masbate, so maybe that'll be a good excuse to come and give you a hand finishing out some things. It's been a while since I've done finish work, but maybe I can give you a hand sometime. See you, Thriving Expat. Alright, so we'll continue on. Job was blameless and upright, and fearing God turned away from evil. He had lots of animals and possessions. And then it says that each and every day he would always go and offer sacrifices for his children in case that they had sinned against God. in any way. So the fact that he would do burnt offerings to the Lord every day for his kids shows you the kind of man that he was. Not only he would turn away from evil, but he would try to come up with solutions for his children in case they had done something evil. But then the scene switches to Satan, who's apparently in the presence of God, which is something that I don't think, maybe in Revelations we see Satan in the presence of God, but it's a very unique portion of Scripture, and it comes back to it a couple different times here in the book of Job. But it said, the Lord said to Satan, or it said, and now there was a day when the sons of God came to the presence themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, from where do you come? Then Satan answered the Lord, from roaming about the earth and walking around on it. The Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? For there is none like him on earth. He is blameless, upright, fearing God, and turning away from evil. So that just goes to show that the description that was here about Job in the beginning of Job was straight from the lips of God. That God himself, the Lord, it says, but God himself found Job to be that. He was blameless, upright, and fearing God and turning away from evil. And so that shows that it wasn't just some sort of face that Job was putting up to people around him, that he would give sacrifices and was blameless and upright, and that's what everyone would say. It wasn't just that. The one who sees it all, the one who knows your thoughts and your intentions and all of those things, he knew that Job truly was blameless, upright, and fearing him, and turning away from evil. Not only that, Satan's just saying, hey, yeah, I was just down on earth, chilling, trying to find some trouble to make or whatever, and he didn't even say, oh, I came here to find someone to test. God said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? He's bragging on him, which is we would all love to be in this position where we've got life so well balanced that we're known as blameless and upright and fearing God and turning away from evil to God. And that when the devil comes into his presence, he's bragging on us, saying about how we are the best man that walks the earth. And I'm sure it doesn't say anywhere here that Job was without sin. And that's something that we have to keep in mind, because Christ, when he came to earth, was without sin. But Job, it never says that, but it does say that he was blameless and upright, which means that, well, blameless would be that he takes the blame for not only himself, but for his children, and that he's not going to put the blame on someone else. And then upright would be that he's not, he's always in the right. He's not doing wrong or doing things that could be perceived as wrong. But he definitely had sinned, because it would say sinless here if that was the case. But God's bragging on him. He thinks he's the best man that walked the earth in that time. And that's got to be quite the title. It says in verse 9, then Satan answered the Lord, does Job fear God for nothing? You have made him a hedge about him and his house, that all that he has on every side. You have blessed him with work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But go forth your hand now and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse your face. This is basically Satan saying, of course he's going to love you. You've done everything for him. You've given him all the things that he has. If you took that all away from him, you think he would still love you, God? He'll just curse you to your face, is what he said. Then the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not put forth your hand on him. So Satan departed from the presence of the Lord. So as soon as got some of the live scripture this time. Yeah, so we're just going to the book of Job. I'm sure you've heard it before, Tom. But if you haven't, it's right before the book of Psalms in the Bible. And it talks about a wealthy man who was blameless, upright, and fearing God and turning away from evil. His name was Job. Then one day, Satan finds himself in the presence of God, and God starts bragging on him. And Satan said to God that he wouldn't be so blameless and upright if you took everything that you've given him away. He'd curse you to his face if you took everything away from him. And God said that he had the power to do whatever he wanted. The book of Job is 40 chapters long, so we're not going to go into the verses past 12 right now, but we are going to go through the story of it. So basically, from 13 to 22, Satan begins to take away everything that Job has. His children, his house, his houses, his land, his animals. Takes everything but Job and his wife away from him. And honestly, you'll see later on that Satan leaving his wife wasn't so that he had one more thing to love, because his wife just starts becoming a voice for evil or whatever, telling him to do things wrong. Because if he would follow the words of his wife, he would no longer be blameless, upright, fearing God, and turning away from evil. But anyhow, so we will read one more here in Job 1, verse 21 and 22. This is after Job has lost everything. He had a little bit of a song or a poem. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave me, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed is the name of the Lord. That'll be our verse of the day. But it said, through all this, Job did not sin, and he did not blame God. So, somehow, Job had figured out that God wasn't behind all of this bad things happening to him, that it was Satan. And there was nowhere that really explains that, but it's definitely good to know that when the Lord will brag on you, but that's when tough times might come. If things have been going great for you, and you've been able to be the type of person that God would call blameless and upright and fearing the Lord, turning away from evil, which is what we should all strive to be as Christians. I know that I fall short of that most days, but I do try to get in the Word so that I can become a better man, a better father, a better leader. Yeah, it's where we would all like to be as Christians, to be called by God, blameless, upright, fearing God and turning away from evil. So that would be my prayer today for this Bible study, is that we can all become, we all fall short, yeah. Amen. But that's going to be prayer that we'll have today is that we can all become like Job. Obviously, we want to become like Christ, but to follow Job's example, because he wasn't the Son of God, he wasn't Christ, and he did fall short, because it would say that he was sinless here if that was the case. But even when things, it says here in 22, through all this, Job did not sin and did not blame God. So when storms come, which they always come here in the Philippines, when things go wrong, when it seems like the devil might be testing you, don't curse God. Don't blame God for the bad things that have happened, because there is going to be a time where you will see why it happened, the big picture. I'm always looking for the big picture each and every day, what God's plan is for my life, for my future, for the future of my family, and the ministry here, ag things, because like, I don't think it was last Monday, but maybe even the Monday before that. No, it was the Friday before that. Was the day that I went and looked at this farm that we would like to purchase. They seemed really like they had consistently contacted me, consistently contacted my brother, saying, we want to sell. And now it's just been a waiting period. And I've been trying to tell myself this whole time that this is part of the big plan, that we're not supposed to have these chickens yet. We're supposed to wait for God's season to buy these chickens. But it's just been hard to patiently wait. Because if we had 200 more eggs, we could really be paying off the barn that we currently have a lot faster. Because we definitely are looking to be, we were thinking the numbers that we were using, and we had all old birds, that it would be a year to pay off the barn. Now we got these new birds that aren't laying eggs, and it's just frustrating that these birds are taking the old birds and putting them towards the negative, where we were really doing well with the old birds, but we knew that we had to get a young stock in, because we're at 3 years old for the birds, and birds don't lay forever, so we knew that we had to start on new birds. But these new birds aren't laying like they should, and it's affecting the profits of the old birds. And if we could just get our hands on 100, 200, 300 more birds that are laying eggs, we could send ourselves. Not to mention, these birds are in a poor situation. They need rescued. But until the cooperation or organization, association comes up with some sort of number for us to pay, we can't move forward. And there's waiting on a couple of different people and signatures and things like that before they're able to sell. But all this to say that when things go wrong, we just need to use the Bible and God to look at the big picture. What is God trying to teach us through the waiting period, through the trial, through the illness, through the cancer, through the death of someone who's very close to you? What is God trying to teach you through this trial? And it seems like the whole book of Job already knows what the trial, what the test is about. And he throughout all of the bad things that happen to him, even whenever he does get sick, he never curses God. And then in the end, God blesses him. I can't guarantee that God's going to bless you. In fact, Whenever someone dies, they're dead. Here in the book of Job, it says that his children, he winds up having more children. And I'm not sure how. It doesn't really give much detail in the end. We'll read that part. It said, the Lord restored the fortunes of Job, and then he prayed for his friends, and the Lord increased all that Job had by twofold, and all of his brothers and sisters, and all that he had known before came to him, and ate bread with him at his house. They consoled him for comfort, and comforted him for his adversaries' adversities that the Lord had brought on him. Each one gave him one piece of money, and each a ring of gold. The Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, and he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. So I'm not sure how that worked out for Job, that he got his kids back. I mean, I can understand how God would bring back and double a flock or a herd. That seems kind of... And it never says that it was the exact kids that had died. So maybe it was just new kids. But that was the book of Job in 30 minutes or less. Thank you all that came in and commented and liked or even viewed. I think we're going to run off here into the garden here shortly. But if y'all had any questions about chicken farming or something that you want me to cover, since the Bible is now not open and we're not talking about Bible study, we can talk about business. But yeah, we're kind of just in limbo right now as far as buying this extra 200 to 300 chickens. And honestly, we're not in it for the chickens. We're in it for the cages. Because I think my dad said it's $15K per cage. And we have stacks of 3, or there at the farm, they have them layered 3 tall. And there's 6 cages in a row on one side and 6 cages in a row on another side. But they're $15K per cage. So as you can imagine, that's six times 6 is 12. So 12 times 15, 100 and some thousand pesos worth of cages times 3. So we're talking about the chickens. We would love to rescue them, love to get eggs, but the real purpose behind the purchasing of the farm will be for the cages, because we're gonna be growing our own birds. I'm sure you all have seen the incubator videos and the updates on the chicks. We lost 3 yesterday. Not sure what happened. We noticed that they were sick, so we quarantined them. We gave them water and medicine, and they just didn't even make it. I don't know if the medicine was too much. So what we have is we have these pills for a cold symptoms or whatever. That's the pills are at the farm. I gave one to one of my other chickens, and it bounced back in a day. You're supposed to give it to him in a week portion, but I saw the results that I wanted the next day from the one chicken, so I stopped giving it to it. But these chicks were a little bit on the small side, so I broke the pills into a quarter and even one was an 8th. Well, I don't know if it was too much for the little. They're not quite chicks anymore. They are still chicks, but they're not. It's not like they're peepers. They were 3 or more weeks old. So you would think that they could have handled just a little bit of medicine, but maybe it was just too late. But we lost 3, but we've got about 20 more there still until today. 10 of them are going to be males, most likely. I haven't done a good count on them, and didn't notice which of the 3 that I got out, but you can always about count on 50% of them being males, which is great, because once these males get to 6 or 7 months, they should be sexually mature enough to breed more birds, so that we can make at that point we'll get a larger incubator, because we'll have, right now we're already using 3 males to mate, but if we had 10 males or 5 males, whatever number we get, that'll be able to they say that a male can about go with 10 hens. So if we had the males to 10 males to 10 hens, that'd be 100 incubated eggs every day, which would be awesome, because we could get a couple of days in a row of incubated eggs and put them in the incubator, fill it up, harvest them all at the same time, or within a certain period of time, and raise up, I don't know, 1,000 birds in just a short period of time. And if you could raise 1,000 birds, and again, you're going to have 50% males. You harvest half of them once you get them to a kilo or 2, and then you make all your feed money back from the other half, because that's about how it goes. You feed them 2 kilos of feed, and then you get a kilo of meat. Is how broilers work. I don't know if we're going to quite get those numbers on the decalbs. We're going to treat the decalbs as much like broilers as possible. Sounds like you have a plan. Yeah, the plan is by 5 years time, no one will have to get ready to lay chickens off of trucks. We'll have our own operation where we're able to sell 1,000 chickens at a time. In the barn that we'll be renting, that these birds are coming from, we'll most likely take half the birds to our farm, put them in cages, and half the birds to John's farm and put them in cages, so that barn is completely open, so we can redesign it to be an area to raise these, they're called layering hens and roosters as well, into full size to sell as ready to lay chickens. So today, or when we bought our ready to lay chickens, they were $475. Other places sell them for upwards of $600 and say that they're ready to lay. We should have known that $475 meant that you would feed them 200 pieces of feed until they laid eggs, but we fed them far more than that. They eat 4 pieces of feed a day as adults. They were nowhere near adults, so they were probably eating like 2 or 3 pieces a day. But it's been more than 100 days since we've gotten them. I think so. Yeah, it's been more than 4 months. So I think on the 12th it'll be 5 months. So 150 days. And some of them haven't laid yet, and someone made a comment yesterday in our cool, enjoy the farm, and I'll check later. Alright, that's I don't know if you mean that you're tuning out, Tom, but thank you for watching if you are. But yeah, so we're not going direct to the farm this morning. We've got to wait on the wife. She'll be done with the quiz here, and we've got to take the baby for injection. But But yeah, as I was saying, we've got a grand scheme of what we're gonna do with this farm, just for now, dinner. All right, have a nice dinner, Tom. We'll see you. Thank you for watching. Sounds like the quiz is over and they're grading now. So we'll be leaving here before long. Which means I should probably take this Bible in. I'll be right back, y'all. I think I'm gonna make a cup of coffee while we wait for the wife. Wow, we still have someone in. I figured we'll drink some coffee and talk while the wife is. And then I got coffee powder on my hands. I hate waste. Absolutely despise waste. My parents didn't grow up in the Great Depression. I don't even think my parents' parents grew up in the Great Depression. But I've heard that people that had parents who grew up in the Great Depression taught people about not wasting things. And that was something. But I absolutely hate it. That's one of my first jobs when I was 14. I was working for a dairy company. And if the drivers would deliver milk every day, and if they found in the stores, putting it in shelves or whatever, in coolers of course, but if they would ever find expired milk, they would have to bring it to the dairy again, and then we would dump it down the drain. Because expired milk can't be sold. And it just drove me crazy how much milk sometimes a driver could bring home. And it's always the driver's fault, because the driver should know the route. He should know that this place, they need 10 gallons of milk every week or every other day. But if for some reason he brings 30 gallons of milk, how are the place that needs 10 going to get rid of 30? So he'd bring back 20 gallons of milk. And I guess there was some instances where the store owners would ask for more milk because they always ran out, and then they would overcompensate and then wind up with a situation where they wound up with too much milk. But it's just like to pour gallons and gallons and gallons of milk down the drain, where farmers are feeding cows to make this milk, hundreds of pounds a day. It's extraordinary how much you have to feed a cow to get a gallon of milk, how much water they have to drink. Like, it's not easy for a cow to make a gallon of milk. Now, granted, the cows that we were getting from made 8, 10, 20 gallons, depending. If you like, 8 to 10 was how much a fresh cow could make, and then 20, I think the record is 40 gallons of milk one cow made in one day, but it was perfect. Like, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere near that from an average cow. We're talking like a massive cow that was at the peak of her life with the peak amount of food, and they probably had her on some supplements and things like that. But yeah, you can expect more than 10 gallons out of a cow, but to just waste it, to pour it down the drain like we had to at the dairy, just made my skin turn. There was a farmer who farmed pigs who would come in pretty frequently and take the milk and feed it to his pigs, because pigs love to drink milk. Milk is great for pigs. It gets them nice and heavy weights. It's good. It's great for you. But most of the time, I would sneak home, and not sneak home. The boss knew about it, but I would ask the boss if I could temporarily take the milk, because the drivers would bring it back on the trucks, and then it would go to an area that's not refrigerated. And I would ask the boss if I just could have this very small section in the cooler for a crate or 2 crates of milk or other things that were expiring, because things that expire aren't actually expired. They do a lot of tests. Morning. They do a pile of tests on, in the worst case situation, how fast can something expire. If you leave it out 5 hours at a time and put it back in the refrigerator, and then take it out again, put it back in the cooler, this and that, taking poor care of something, when is it going to go bad? And that's where they get the numbers for expiration. But if something stays sealed inside of a refrigerated, a refrigerated area or cooler, you ready?
Yeah, I'm done already. The things that we're already starting with.
Okay, we'll go there.
I think.
Yeah, just the bags. Alright, wife is ready to do injection, so we'll catch you all. I'll just leave you run. No one's watching anyhow at the moment.
provided for the injection of the baby and mama.
Mama?
Yes.
Mama who?
Sorry, baby. Sabi mo. Taron, what are you doing?
Getting her back so it will not fall. Wow, we got a lot of people in since we started moving. I wonder if this is good for fuel efficiency. Just drive to 40 kilometers an hour and then wait till it goes down to 30 and drive again.
Can you get
Yes,
the
the
book,
roses are
please?
very nice here, Bellas.
Can you get the book?
Mm-hmm.
My baby, come here. 4.6. 4.6.
4.6?
Get that one. Oh, that's yeah, lahat ng ulo. Lahat ng ulo. Sa dito, sorry po. Dito. Dito. Mahangit ang baby. Mabutang.
Stretch, baby, stretch.
Kid Larry. Anong panang tayo?
57.9.
57.
Wala din fluoride mo din. Ano nga, pangalan? Zerelia. Ang sa ako nakakinig.
Saan lagi ito, ma'am?
We're here at the health center. Jan's in line to get an injection for the baby. This is injection day. Everybody brings their babies. But it's interesting that it's not more individualized. But that's all. You're back, Tom. Thank you for tuning back in. We're just here at the Motog Barangay Hall. This is where they do Balloon Boost and Motog, and I think that's it. Maybe Publication as well. But yeah, they have the health post here, and this is where they do all the injections. We've been live for an hour or 58 minutes. But I should give my wife time now. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be live again here to do some garden things in a little bit. Thanks, y'all. God bless. Bye now.